Order. I will note that all council members are present. For the record, will you please stand as the honor guard presents the colors?
City of White Bear Lake, a flag of your nation, and a pledge to follow it.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Present arms.
Okay, item 2A, minutes of the regular city council meeting from September 24th. I'd entertain a motion to approve those minutes. So moved. A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The minutes are approved. Item 2B, minutes of the city council work session on September 24th, 2024. I'd entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Minutes are approved. Item 3, adoption of the agenda. Are there any corrections, additions, or amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We have an agenda. Item 4, consent agenda. I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Consent agenda is approved. All right. Item 5, visitors and presentations. We have a swearing in of administrative captain and sergeant. So, Chief Hager, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Thank you for allowing us this unique opportunity to share with you and the rest of our community here two of our newest leaders and to celebrate with them and their family and friends as each take their oath of office. I will share a little bit about Administrative Captain Isaac Tuma and Patrol Sergeant Mike Selner, after which they'll take their oath of office with City Manager Lindy Crawford. It's my pleasure to begin with Captain Isaac Tuma. He grew up with his parents and two sisters in Ham Lake, Minnesota. Isaac graduated in 2001 from Blaine High School and attended both Century College and Metropolitan State University to obtain his bachelor's degree in order to earn his skills certificate. Isaac and I go way back. During my 15 years with Lino Lakes, I was fortunate enough to work with Isaac when he became a community service officer in 2008. I witnessed firsthand Isaac's work ethic, his commitment to the community, his unwavering positive attitude. I found, however, that he was two-timing us by working with the city of White Bear Lake part-time as a community service officer as well. It's funny how life works, because when Isaac was hired as a police officer here in White Bear in 2011, we in Lino Lakes realized we missed out on something special, and we subsequently disowned and shunned him. 3 years later, I followed him to the city of White Bear Lake, and I instantly changed my mind on my perspective on the wise decision that Isaac made. Isaac has left his mark on his community and in the lives of his coworkers. During his time on patrol, Isaac has been assigned to the Ramsey County Violent Crime Enforcement Team. He has served as a school resource officer, as one of our representatives on Ramsey County SWAT team and mobile field force, as a DARE officer, as a field training officer, a shift advisory officer, as a reserve unit advisor, and a liaison with the CERT team, which many of which are in the room tonight. He also served as a trainer for the Citizens Police Academy, and he has and still does today serve as one of our firearms instructors. In 2020, Isaac was promoted to the position of patrol sergeant, where he spent the last 4 years on dark side nights. As sergeant, he continued to focus on community engagement and building training for his shift and for the rest of the department. Additionally, during his time as sergeant, Isaac earned a master's degree in public safety and law enforcement leadership from the University of St. Thomas. And he was integral in initiating our drone program, which he still oversees today. Isaac has always had a commitment to his education and to bettering himself through wanting to experience everything this career has to offer. After a long and exhausting promotional process with 3 of our own dedicated leaders, we offered Isaac the position of administrative captain, and he started in that position on September 16th. Since taking on his new role, Isaac has, as he does with every other part of his life, hit the ground running. Whether as an informal leader or as a leader formally, like we're celebrating him for here tonight, Isaac has always attacked every new opportunity with an infectious energy and with enthusiasm. I look forward to him continuing to make an impact on those around him, and I trust Isaac to take on and create opportunities for our department and to grow and succeed. Former Mayor Emerson, who's here tonight, told me earlier this week that Isaac and Antonio were her first hires. She, just like others in our community, all seem to remember Isaac fondly through his time as an SRO or their child's DARE officer or through any one of many community partnerships he's made over the years. Our department staff benefits greatly when the community's perceptions of us are shaped and formed through their relationship with Isaac. Isaac is joined tonight by many of his family members, mentors, and friends, including many of our shared former partners from Lino Lakes. He's also joined by his parents, Donna and Todd, his 2 boys, Gavin and Henry, and his wife, Jenna, who in a few minutes will be pinning on his badge. On to Sergeant Mike Selner, who was born and raised in Cottage Grove, Minnesota, with his parents and 1 sister. Mike graduated from Park High School in 2005. He attended the Minneapolis Community and Technical College, where he received his skills certificate. Mike was one of those young people that started in a department that departments love because they can raise them knowing, like in our case, the White Bear Way. He served our department as a volunteer reserve officer in 2007, as well as a part-time community service officer in the same year. During that time, he also filled shifts as a public safety dispatcher. Finally, serving our department as a police officer when he was hired in 2010. As an officer, Mike instantly took on roles which put him in the position of leadership. He's been one of our firearms instructors for 13 years, and he's been a member of the Ramsey County SWAT team, many of which are in the room tonight, for about 11 years. Mike has served as an adult criminal investigator, our representative on the Violent Crime Enforcement Team, and as a field training officer and a shift advisory officer. He's played a crucial role in the success of every officer hired in the last 13 years. Mike remains one of our tactical experts, relied on not only by our officers and by our department, but also after hundreds of SWAT deployments over the years, also by agencies around the county and around the metro. Mike is the type of officer you typically see in tactical gear representing the PD or the SWAT unit in some kind of cool armored vehicle at some community event, like Touch a Truck, Safety Camp, or Market Fest. While generally a very stoic and serious person, Mike lights up when he connects with kids and the interested public at these opportunities to make community connections. Mike also values education and training. As an officer, he went back to school to obtain his bachelor's degree from Metropolitan State University, 2021, and is about to embark on his journey to obtain his master's degree. Our community is truly lucky to have Sergeant Selner serving in the role of a formal leader at this department. His tactical experience, as well as his ability to communicate, mentor, and problem solve is what sets him apart from others. I am personally feeling very fortunate to have Mike as one of our decision makers, helping to continue to grow our department, and I look forward to witnessing the trajectory of his career firsthand. Mike is joined tonight by many of his family members, mentors, and friends in the room, including his parents, Gary and Carol, and his children, Evelyn and Owen, and his wife, Cassie, who will also be pinning on his badge. So, Isaac and Mike, please come forward where City Manager Crawford will issue both of you the oath of office, after which you'll get your badges pinned by your wives.
Gentlemen, raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Michael Zoner,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States and the state of Minnesota,
the Constitution of the United States and Minnesota,
and will discharge and faithfully execute
and will discharge and faithfully execute
the duties devolving upon me
the duties devolving upon me
as administrative captain and sergeant
as sergeant
for the city of White Bear Lake,
of the city of White Bear Lake,
without fear or favor,
without fear or favor,
to the best of my judgment and ability.
to the best of my judgment and ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you guys so much. So dear Mr. Mayor and members of the council, I'm deeply grateful for this opportunity to express my appreciation and the honor for being sworn in tonight and for the leadership and support you provided to the police department. I'm continually inspired by your dedication to our community. 16 years ago, I embarked on this journey as a community service officer, and today I'm humbled to assume the role of administrative captain. The diverse experience and roles I've had the privilege to serve have shaped me as a leader, and I'm committed to leveraging these experiences to lead with integrity and dedication. I must acknowledge the remarkable team at the police department. The effective functioning of our department is a result of collective efforts of every individual. I'm proud to be a part of such a cohesive and supportive law enforcement family. We work hard and have a lot of fun. I also want to express my deepest gratitude to my wife. Her unwavering support has been the cornerstone of my career, and I'm so thankful for her unintended encouragement and love. Thank you for standing by me and inspiring me to be a better person every day, and for your dedication, making all the family functions work through so many different schedules over the 16 years. To everyone present here today, whether you're a community member, volunteer, mentors, family, or friends, I extend my heartfelt gratitude. Each of you has played a role in my shaping of my journey, and I'm so grateful for your unwavering support and encouragement. Your presence here today means the world to me. In closing, I'm excited to embark on this new chapter. I'm committed to upholding the values of integrity, compassion, and service as I take on this new role. Thank you all for being here to celebrate this milestone with me. Your support and encouragement have been instrumental in shaping my journey And I'm deeply grateful for each and every one of you. And I'm facing this way, but I should turn around because this is all the faces that I'm speaking to. Thank you.
Much to my style, I'll probably be a little bit more straight to the point. And in case you're wondering if it's easier to be the point man on a high-risk SWAT warrant or being in front of you guys, it's definitely being on the SWAT warrant. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, Ms. Crawford, Mr. Juba, thank you for the opportunity to serve White Bear Lake as a police sergeant. It's truly an honor and a privilege to take on this greater responsibility. The role of a police officer is not just a job, it's a calling, a duty to protect, to serve, and to ensure the safety of every person in our community. My commitment to this duty is unwavering, and I look forward to leading with integrity and dedication in this new capacity. I want to take a moment to recognize the people who have supported me through this journey. My family, who sits behind me here, my friends, my SWAT teammates, who I think might have left training early today, not entirely sure, and my coworkers, both past and present. But I especially want to say thank you to my wife. Being a police spouse it comes with a unique challenge that often goes unnoticed. The long hours, the unpredictability of the job, the emotional toll that it can take, they're not easy. But you've faced it with all the strength, and you've made numerous sacrifices for our family. So your constant support means more to me than words I can express. As I step into this new role, I remain committed to serving the community with highest standards of professionalism and compassion. Together, we'll continue to make the city a safe place where everyone can prosper. Thank you.
Mayor, members of the council, I believe that the majority of these people are going to leave right now. Maybe we can give them just a few minutes to get out of here, possibly before we start anything else.
Sure.
Go away.
Steve next door. Motion for
Go help. Thank you. For our public safety building for refreshments.
Well, came in earlier, got the photo at 10, way under 30%. So.
not quite a week late.
You know their life.
No, just Fridays. We do Friday, Monday, and Friday.
Oh, okay.
And a couple of them are paid, so it's like a TV shot. I don't know if they did this on purpose or what. You know, the whole, do the bow. Yeah, this is great. You look at Josie's face. She's looking at Dad. Hey, who's that guy? Who's that guy? I can't wait to see him. 29th, they come home. Getting close to the semester. 2 weeks. Or the quarter.
And they will, how long will they spend here?
2 weeks.
Oh, that's how long. Oh, that's awesome. So vacation for him? Your vacation?
Yeah, a year, yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't know.
Well, I think he's getting like 6 weeks. And then he'll back to post. You do 6 months in the desert, you get 6 weeks. So, her leave, so the last 2 weeks of her leave from, no. See, nice try though. That's good.
It's like they watch it.
Yeah.
Phase out.
No. I like it, Mary.
Can't leave without the speech.
Cameron Mellon, the American government teacher, last Saturday, and I told him about it. He said, "Oh, absolutely. They can wait till the end. They got to stay through the meeting."
I've been here for all 20 minutes.
It's not my decision.
Next slide, please. Oh, no.
All right. Now that we are back on track here, Chief, whenever you want to proceed with your biannual report, please do.
I'll depend on my my clicker over there. Thank you, Paul. Since I spoke with you last in April, this is our newest department photo. this was the day, actually, that we made the decision on Captain Tuma for his position. So as you can see, he's seated there as you look at it to the left of me as a sergeant. But this is all of our department except for one. So it's kind of a neat photo to have that. So this is our org chart. We have included this in these from now on, so you can kind of get a feel for what everybody's position is and who they oversee. Administrative Captain Tuma and Patrol Sergeant Henry. They both have several officers. As you know, Patrol Officer Henry, or excuse me, Captain Henry oversees everything that has to do with patrol, and pretty much everything that has a uniform on it is what Captain Henry oversees, with the exception of the SROs, which Administrative Captain Tuma oversees. Investigations, admin support, including records and admin assistance, volunteers. He oversees training, and then all of our SROs, 3 detectives, 3 SROs, and VSET officer. Thank you. Just a little bit further into the weeds here, you know I like pictures. So my current staffing there, and the 2 top are my 2 captains. We celebrated tonight with Captain Tuma, then Captain Gadboy and Aaron, Sergeant Gadboy and Sergeant Aaron, Sergeant Vetty, and then in the bottom right is newly Sergeant Selner. We have, as you know, 2 captains, 4 sergeants. We have 18 police officers as of last night. We have 18. We have 16 officers who are hitting the streets. We have 2 officers who are in FTO training as we speak, and that brings us to 31 sworn total, to include all leadership. And we are in the process of our 32nd right now in the vetting process for that officer. We have 3 CSOs. We have 2 currently being backgrounded to get us to our full staff of 5. We have 4 administrative staff, as you saw earlier, 3 investigators and 3 school resource officers. We currently, actually, I'll wait till another slide if you go again. Our patrol staff, our shifts haven't changed for many years, with the exception of just maybe altering them by a half hour or so to just make them a little more cohesive with each other. But you're either on dark side or light side. Light side is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Dark side is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then they all work every other Saturday. And they all work 11. Officers work 11.5-hour shifts. Sergeants work 12-hour shifts. It's just the way it works out. Investigator staffing, as I said, we have 3 school resource officers and we have 3 adult criminal investigators. Our VSET position right now, or Violent Crime Enforcement Team, remains unfilled, and we're just waiting until we get a little bit, get our officers trained and get our last officer hired before we make a decision on that position. Our administrative staff here, their duties include being the public's first point of contact, which is one of the things I'm the most proud of this group for, is because when people come in the door, if they don't call 911, when they come in the door or call the police department, one of these 4 women are the people that they're going to talk to. As you can imagine, they deal with a lot of confrontations over the phone or in the lobby, and they handle it perfectly. They review reports. They deal with crime data management, and that they help me do a lot of crime analyst work. They prepare officers for court. They're experts on data practices and what we can release and what we can't. They're evidence technicians with digital and other types of evidence. They deal with crime reporting to the BCA and to the FBI. They help officers, again, prepare for court. It's in there twice, sorry. And then Carrie Varco there helps coordinate all of our events that we have. She's kind of our event coordinator. So these are our personnel changes that we've had in the last, say, 8 months-ish. And, of course, Captain Tuma there on the top left, and Selner, Sergeant Selner, and then we have Connor Dillon there, third from the left. He was that officer that left us early in the year, and then after a couple months returned to us, thankfully, after he went to Washington County and maybe realized the grass wasn't greener for him. Then Jordan McNamara there on the far right, upper far right. He's the one that just finished FTO yesterday, so we're really excited to get him in here and have a swearing in for him here in the next, maybe month or so. On the bottom there is our very newest officer, that's Zach Hengen. He has about 3 weeks into FTO right now. On the far right and the bottom, that's Jake Sungard. He is on his second phase of FTO, so he's been with us for a couple months. And then in the bottom there, in the middle, is a kid named Connor Severson, and he's our newest CSO, and I'm really excited for this young man as he graduated high school like 2 minutes ago, and he will be with us for a long time. So I really feel like he will be a CSO with us, and he'll be a veteran CSO by the time he's ready to be a police officer, and we're hoping that we can help him in that journey, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Major events for us this year was a public safety open house, of course, that was just the culmination of our long 1.5-year journey of getting through that building remodeling. So we changed our branding a little bit. You see that on the upper right there, you see that's my badge. They're not in yet. As you can see, I still have a old, tarnished, horrible looking badge on, and we're really looking forward to our new badges. But that will be the badge that I will wear. The officers, the only thing that will change, it will just say police officer and then have their badge number underneath that. And then you'll see that in the middle there, up on the middle of the badge, you'll see the new seal, the new state seal, to kind of satisfy that the change that the state made. And then those are our 2 kinds of cars, different graphics that we put on our cars. The bottom right is the majority of our cars, and then up on the left there is what we like to call ghost graphics, and those are just kind of really unique looking cars. We've had a lot of attention from the public over these cars, and our officers are big fans of them, and I think that maybe they'll be a little bit more plentiful in our future, but we'll see kind of how that shakes out. One of the things we started doing this year is doing officer profiles through Suburban Cable Commission, and Mary Klein, who I think left the room here, but she was just here. She does just a wonderful job. I suspect that you've seen some of these videos. We've done 10 so far. These are the 10 officers that we profiled, to include me. My goal is to get our community to get to know every one of our employees at the police department in a good 3 or 4 minute interview where she really gets them to talk about themselves, which I think is incredible. That my goal is that we have a more cohesive relationship with our community, and that it's not just people in uniform, but there's actually a story behind each one of those faces, and they tell part of their story during these officer profiles. I suspect I'm not going to get everybody. We have a few shy people in the department that are maybe not so big on sharing their feelings. I heard one officer say that they can't put themselves out there on a reality show like this. So we'll see how they do. But I don't want to put somebody in a bad position either, or a position they're uncomfortable with. 3 things that we started this year is our community engagement team, our awards committee, and our recruitment team. What we understand is that we really wanted to increase the number of opportunities we have to interface with the public in non-confrontational manners. Specifically, we strive to interact with members of the public that don't typically see the police department in a good light. So we've been working hard at that. We formed a community engagement team, as we know that community events aren't always every officer's forte. They're not the specialty of every single officer we have. We have officers that are good at some stuff and not good at community engagement. So we formed a team, and this group of about 10 officers attend a lot of stuff, and they really are into it. They're the officers that entered this profession in order to make connections with the community, and so they're experts in it, let's say. And so we've really increased the amount of times that we've been with the public. Our awards committee, we want to recognize the incredible work that our officers and our staff do, as well as our citizens do. The council may remember that we had a citizen in here a few months back, and we gave them a citizens award for their behavior on one of our calls. I got a feeling there's one in the future as well, which maybe I'll tell you about in a little bit. But we have an opportunity for our officers and our leadership staff to nominate each other for these awards. Most of these award nominations are coming from fellow officers who want to recognize their partner for good work. I didn't really realize until we started doing this the amount of life-saving opportunities that our officers do. Like literally, I mean, I know that there's fire people and ex-fire people in the room, and they're used to doing that stuff all the time, and because they're with medics and they bring people back, but you're not used to seeing that with cops all the time. And we have brought literally, several people back to life, and they're living today. And that really surprised me how many times, since we've been really kind of keeping track of that, how many times that happens. So we're excited to have a ceremony in December where we're going to recognize these employees and these award recipients. And then our recruitment team, of course, we have a group of, they happen to be men, but there's 4 of them, and they travel around the state going to career fairs in different colleges, trying to drum up and keep support for the White Bear Lake Police Department. Our training team, we have a good group of trainers. Some things that we've changed this year and added. We've added the 40 millimeter less lethal weapon system, and that you'll see there on the top right is a very large foam projectile that's shot out of a 40 millimeter weapon. It's like if you saw in the movies, it looks like a grenade launcher, but it's not a grenade launcher. It launches these little foam bullets, projectiles. So we started that system. I believe that system is going to both protect officers and protect citizens from serious injury. So I think it's really good. It's a no-brainer to move to that system. I'm really grateful that we were allowed to do that. We transitioned different rifle ammunition because we were concerned about over-penetration. We want to make sure that whatever it is that we're aiming at, the round only affects that thing and it doesn't over-penetrate into, the thing that's behind it, let's say. Every year, starting last year, we notify our officers of the 12 training days that they'll be expected to be here in the mandatory trainings. We notify them somewhere around November of what 12 days, once a month, of course, over the next year that they'll be expected to be here for training. That both ramped up the number of trainings we have a year, and it gives the officers a little bit more flexibility to kind of plan their life, and they're not kind of bombarded with the training that, hey, we're going to have training in 2 weeks, you got to be here for it. So they can plan their year around it. We had an active threat training, just like we have for the last few years. This year we had it up at the high school, North Campus, over the summer. And we're quite grateful we did that. It helped us really get used to the layout of that building, and calls that we've been at recently have assisted in that, the fact that we were familiar with that building. We do 12 roll call trainings a year, so we knock out one mandatory, post-mandated type of training every month of the year, so we don't have to dedicate these other trainings to doing that. We can dedicate the one training that we do a month that's a 4-hour or 8-hour training to scenario-based training to really make our training times more valuable. So there are a bunch of mandated, post-mandated trainings that we have to do. We have to review handcuffing. We have to review pepper spray. We have to review all these things, and we have to do it every year. And those are the types of training we do actually at roll call while we're there, and we're able to save a lot of money from having officers have to come in on their off time and do those trainings. This next officer, we're starting our new quote-unquote academy for that officer, and that we're going to give them special attention during their administrative week. Usually it's an administrative week, and then we put them in a uniform and put them on the street. Now we're going to stretch that out to 2 or 3 weeks as we move forward, because we're going to have them encounter scenario-based training during that time, so their first incident that's a serious incident isn't for real. We want to train them in our way and get them used to our department, as opposed to their first day on FTO could be quite intense. That's new for us, but other departments are doing that, and we're not recreating the wheel there. We are going to start training our officers in first aid. It's a thing that we've gone away from in law enforcement for many years, decades. Some of us that are close in proximity to ambulance services and paramedics that can be there within, maybe sometimes before us. We've let some of this first aid slide. It's not mandated by the state to do it. We are going to incorporate it back into our world of training this year. In fact, in a couple weeks from now, we're going to have one of our in-service trainings, and we're going to incorporate some first aid training into that. We're going to do that again in December, and then next year we're going to get all of our people certified in CPR. So it's a thing that's important to me to do, and we're headed in that direction. And then lastly, something we incorporated over the last year, City Manager Crawford introduced us to this, the leadership team, to home run leadership philosophy in a book about how to make good decisions, and our department is implementing this strategy in a lot of our decision making. So with that, As the council knows, we accepted our grant from Pathways to Policing from the Minnesota Department of Public Safety. That is to help non-traditional police cadets and assist them with their education costs so they can further their law enforcement career. Non-traditional in our two candidates' case is Riley, female, law enforcement made up about 12% female, so non-traditional is a female. And then Connor is a fluent Spanish speaker, so he is a non-traditional student. He attended Lakes International Language Academy, Lila, up in Forest Lake, coincidentally where my kids went. And when he graduated, he is a fluent Spanish speaker, which makes him non-traditional. We're just honored to be able to assist these two cadets in helping to pay for their education. So. We are in the middle of an evidence room renovation. In fact, that picture was taken from about 3 hours ago. So we are smack dab in the middle of that. The Minnesota Department of Public Safety's grant that the council knows about, where we received money for lockers, gun lockers, and safes, as well as the local government aid money that we received last year, earlier this year, is going to go to help pay for that. We also had little bit of a faux pas in that area, and then we had some water damage, and it's going to affect our evidence room, and it's going to be quite a project to be able to vacate all of your evidence from the last 30 years and put it somewhere safe while you're still working with it, getting it in and out, bring it to court and stuff like that, and then renovating your room and then putting all the evidence back in again. So we're going to take our time with it, make sure it's done right, and we're going to audit while we're doing that to make sure everything's accounted for. So our activity levels, I know that I'm not big into statistics. I don't think I measure our police department based on statistics. I think they measure them on the satisfaction of our citizens. However, we our goal was to become more active this year than we have in years past. We were up 25% in traffic stops in the same time period from last year. We're up 13% in arrests. Our case numbers are up 5%, and our community events are up 60% plus. So we've really been really active. Our officers have been trying hard. And a lot of this is attributed to that we have more staffing. So when you have more staffing, you're able to do more self-initiated activities. And thanks to everybody involved, we were able to increase the number of officers on the street this year. So. Our partnerships include continue to be the Northwest Youth and Family Services. We hope to continue to partner with them on a variety of upcoming endeavors. Mesa Consulting with Jonathan Bunt, he and Assistant City Manager Juba helped to create our new wellness policy for fire and police. We partner with him. This year we started with Lexipol, and Lexipol is a policy creating software that helps us not only create our policies but keep them updated with every new law change that happens in the state and the country. Of course, we partner with VSET SWAT and Mobile Field Force with the BCA, the different Chiefs Association, whether it be from Minnesota or the Ramsey County Chiefs Association. The Post Board, of course, they are, they've really increased their oversight of officers, which is good. I'm not complaining about that, but as you know, the school resource officers rules changed this last year, and we're still dealing with that. One of the things that we know we have to do is attend school resource officer training. Our 3 officers who are in our schools have to do that. They haven't even come out with the training yet, so we have time. We have 6 months from the time they come out with it to do it, and they haven't come out with it. So we know it's coming up, but we just haven't done it yet. I suspect it'll be a summer thing, and then they oversee our training and our licensing. Our volunteers hold a real special place for me. We have our triad group on the upper right. On the bottom right, we have our reserve group, and then over on the left is our CERT group. And our CERT group, they all are really valuable volunteers, community volunteers for us. But our CERT group, I'll tell you, they are the most active people. You saw them in the yellow tonight. They're the most active group of citizens that I've ever worked with in any of the departments I've been with. They want to be involved all the time. Of course, they're at every Market Fest, and they're at parades, and they help with everything that we do, and we need bodies. We just put the word out, and we'll get 35 bodies here to help us do something. Back in 17, we had a shooting down in the south end of the city, and the guy got away. We caught him eventually, but he didn't have a gun, and we knew it was going to be in a certain geographical area, in a wooded area. And we set up a tent in the sleet in the early winter, and put up a tent, and we sent about 30 volunteers into the woods, and they came out with the gun. And so it was really unbelievable. We would have never found it. They overturned every single leaf in that woods until they found this gun, and I thought that was just incredible. I thought it was incredible until about 5 hours ago, we had a gun pointing incident in our city over the weekend, and a pursuit happened, and our officers behaved appropriately and pursued this person, and thankfully he ran out of gas, which is the best kind of ending to a pursuit. But in the meantime, he threw a gun out the window, and just outside of our city in Ramsey County. And the officers on Saturday night searched for about a day and a half for a gun that was in the area, as I say, in our Ramsey County partners area, not ours. But we wanted it, and we sent 2 CERT members out there this afternoon, and they called us up and said, "Here's the gun." So it's just incredible what we have for us, and it would have never been found. Maybe by some kid sometime would have been found. I mean, who knows? Just an incredible group of volunteers we have, and they're just dedicated to serve their community and serve their department, and we've just really developed quite a relationship with them. So I just wanted to give them a shout out. They may or may not be up for a Citizens Award coming up, but we'll see. And that's all I have. I'm happy to entertain any questions if anybody has. I'm sure by now everybody's sick of hearing me talk for the last 25 minutes.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate the report. I don't have any questions. I just want to extend my thanks and compliments to you on getting us to fully staffed, which was a priority for the council. Everyone on the council knows, I think many members of the public know how difficult it is hiring in law enforcement right now. So you guys have kind of beaten the odds, and to you and Ms. Crawford, Mr. Juba, and everybody that has a hand in finding good police officers to help keep us safe, you guys have done it and done it well. So hats off to you on that. Council, any questions for the chief? Councilmember Edberg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief, so I appreciate your perspective on numbers, and I agree with your philosophy. So no, I'm not poking at anything. But if I have a resident of the city who says, I'm hearing a lot more sirens these days, or it just seems like we have more crime than we used to have. Can you share, and particularly violent crime, can you give us a sense of where is that going in our community, and is that same old, more, less? How would you respond to a citizen who has concerns about crime in our community?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you for that question. I think I would answer it by saying, while I don't have the numbers in front of me, I can categorically say that violent crime is not on the rise in White Bear Lake. Crime in general is not on the rise. The reason we have more arrests is because our officers are working harder. And, many years ago, I'm not trying to tell you a long story, but I guess I am now. Many years ago, in my old department, we had myself and then a couple other guys that were just work dogs, and they would go out and they'd arrest DWIs like crazy every night. And I got promoted to sergeant, and the other 2 guys went to day shift, and our next year's numbers were about a third of what they were the year before. And I remember a new cop coming in and going, I think we really sent the message to our public that they should not drive and drink and drive around our city. And I said, yeah, or our cops just stopped making arrests. Like, that's probably what it is, because the 3 top DWI earners stop making arrests, and then just like that, there's no more DWIs. So one could interpret that as, there's less DWI offenders, or just simply that we're not catching them as often. And I think there's a little bit of that with our numbers that I shared earlier today, and that, we're up on arrests, we're up on traffic stops, we're up on all that stuff. That's just because there's maybe a new group of officers that are incentivized to go try to make a difference and try to stop those folks. And so I don't think there's any validity to that. I could certainly do the work and find out where we're at on that. I know that's not what you're asking, but I could do that. But as I said, I generally just take a look at our community and and our number of officer complaints that we get. And through those two things and some of the work that our officers did this week, which have just been incredible, what they've done this week, just in the last couple days alone. And so I look at that and I feel like I can get a pretty good gauge on how our department is doing right now. And the numbers, they help a little bit, but when COVID hit, our numbers went through the basement, right? Like everything dropped. We did half of everything, sometimes 75% less of everything. And, somebody could say, well, look at there, crime's down. Well, not really, just we're not making traffic stops. We're not making arrests anymore. And so I think we're crawling out from that dark time that we had over the last, say, 5 years ago. And I think now we're just in that period where things are just looking up.
I really appreciated your report. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Council, any other questions? All right, Chief, thank you again for the report. Appreciate it. All right, item 5B, Prosecution Services Annual Update. Ms. Monens, please. The podium is yours.
Mr. Mayor, council members, city manager, I'm Heather Munnins. I am an attorney at GDO Law. We have handled prosecution services for the city of White Bear Lake since 1996. So that's 28 years. I have been an attorney with GDO since 2011. After all the disruption we had with COVID, I can tell you that 2024, we finally have a stable year in prosecution. What that means is we are now back to in-person court for nearly everything. Our calendars are back to normal. Hitting on your question, council member, I was just in a meeting today. They said our number of new case filings has slightly gone up, but we are still not at the same level we were pre-COVID. So we are getting back to normal. Starting in January of 2024, they redid our schedule once again because they said we are no longer in the pandemic. So what they did is White Bear Lake was assigned to 2 judges in Ramsey County. We were assigned to Judge Yang and Judge Osby. Judge Osby retired about 3 weeks ago and is enjoying the good life in Italy right now. So we will be getting a new judge, but we're assigned to 2 judges and we have a 3-week rotation. Week 1, we have court every single day, morning and afternoon. Week 2 is our trial week, and week 3 is our off week. And we have the same rotation as the other suburban prosecutors. My office makes appearances at all of these court criminal proceedings. We are at the jail. Specifically, I'm usually at the jail every single Friday morning to handle anyone who is brought in custody for the suburban prosecutors. And that is at the Law Enforcement Center in St. Paul. We have our arraignments, omnibus hearings, and pretrials at the Maplewood Courthouse. Our contested hearings and jury trials are at the St. Paul Courthouse. And the only thing that is still via Zoom or virtual is our petty traffic court trials. So these are our speeding tickets. Actually, these are really appreciated by both the officers because they can appear wherever they're at, as well as the citizens. They don't have to come to a courthouse to contest their speeding ticket. My office also handles any vehicle forfeitures. That has gone down over the last several years because there's been a change in the forfeiture laws, and we handle appeals. I can tell you right now we have 1 appeal case pending. We did a trial for a DWI refusal last year. We secured a conviction on a test refusal. The defendant appealed it as their right. They appealed it in March, and we just submitted our appellate brief in September. The court moves slow. Appellate courts move even slower than the district court. We should have an oral argument, I'm thinking sometime before the end of the year, and then the justices or court has 90 days to issue an opinion. We have also done this year we do training once or twice a year with the police department. I came in July and did training with the police department. We went over the new statutes, changes to the case law. We also just did refresher course on DWI and harassment laws, as those have been coming up more frequently. DWIs are always part of our training. There's been 2 recent changes in the law that I just want to touch on with council really quick, and I think both of these changes have a big impact on our community. The first one is the one that was probably given the most news, and that would be the change in the marijuana laws. In August of 2023, marijuana became legal in the state of Minnesota. It's legal for anyone over the age of 21, although it's still federally illegal. Drug paraphernalia is no longer a crime in Minnesota, so if you are found with a pipe, that is not a crime anymore. For the cannabis flower, which most of us think of when we think of marijuana, you can have 2 ounces of it in public, and that is legal. Anything more is not. You can have 2 pounds of it at your residence. Anything more is illegal, but 2 pounds or less is fine. Where you cannot use marijuana, you cannot use it in a motor vehicle. You cannot be under the influence of motor vehicle while you're driving. What does that mean? Well, we don't really know at this point, to tell you the truth. They gave a lot of money to the State Patrol to develop a saliva test, where they pull you over on the side of the road and you provide saliva, and that will tell you your level of marijuana and provide some guidance of whether you're under the influence. That test is inadmissible in court, and we're just at the beginning stages of it. Realistically, it's very hard to prosecute someone who the only thing in their blood is marijuana. As far as when it comes to motor vehicles and marijuana use, the legislature made the use and transportation of marijuana very similar to the use of alcohol in a motor vehicle, kind of like the open container laws. So what this means is you can transport marijuana, but it has to be in closed packaging, and it has to essentially be in the trunk of your vehicle, similar to alcohol. Or if you don't have a trunk, it has to be furthest away from the driver. Where you cannot use and possess marijuana is in a school, in a correctional facility, or if you are under the age of 21. You cannot sell it without a license. And the other big piece that has hit my office specifically is the expungement laws. As part of the legislation, there's automatic expungements, and those were done by the BCA of people who were convicted of certain level of drug offenses. So what that means for us is we were sent a spreadsheet by the BCA, and we were told to expunge and purge our files of police reports and different, any AV evidence or any evidence we had or records we had of people who were convicted of drug-related offenses that were on the spreadsheet. They have gone through, I believe, tens of thousands of cases and expunged them. The other area of law that is new this year that I don't think has gotten a lot of press, which it should have, is there's been a huge change in our mental health laws. This started April 1st. Under the old competency laws, if there was some concern about your competency, you would do a competency evaluation. We call this a Rule 20. If you were determined incompetent, if you committed a misdemeanor level offense, it was automatically dismissed. A gross misdemeanor and felony level offense, the prosecutor would submit what's called an intent to prosecute, and the case would carry on until competency has been restored, but there would be no legal proceedings until that restoration occurred. And so every 6 months, they would bring you back to court to see if competency has been restored. The problem with the old way is so many cases fell through the cracks. So what would happen is someone was found incompetent, usually on misdemeanor level offenses. These were trespass offenses, disorderly conducts, violations of harassment restraining orders. They would not be a danger to themselves or the community, and so they would just be released back into the community. We would not give them any programming. We would not start a commitment proceeding through the county attorney. They would just be given no services and returned. And then we'd see these people over and over again. It started to become a hamster wheel, essentially, where they would commit a crime, the police would arrest them, they would come to court, the courts would dismiss it, and then we would just return them to the community. And there was nothing we could do about this. So the new laws that went into effect on April 1st tried to kind of stop that piece of it. And so what they're saying is, now, if you are found incompetent on certain misdemeanor level offenses, it's not an automatic dismissal. These are the targeted misdemeanor offenses. These are violations of protective orders, DWIs, harassing phone calls, indecent exposure, domestic assaults. On these cases, there's not an automatic dismissal. Instead, what they're saying is these are special cases, these are important to the community, and so we are going to try to restore competency, and we are going to appoint what's called a forensic navigator. It's a new term that the courts and legislature just came up with. The forensic navigator's role, starting April 1st, is to assist these people with access to healthcare services, medical care, stable housing, help them apply for financial assistance, transportation, and social services. They also help them with competency attainment education, so we can get them competent again. They report on their progress to the courts, And they also prepare what we call a bridge plan. And this is essentially trying to bridge the competency and provide contact information and help them get to court and treatment and referrals and all of that. A lot of these people who are incompetent, it's really hard to get them to come to court or get treatment or get any services because we can't get a hold of them. And so the forensic navigator's role is to bridge this gap and to help the community and help these people who are incompetent. Practical use. Let's actually talk about how this is going into effect. I can tell you this went into effect April 1st. April 10th, I was at the jail. We had a woman who was charged with, this was her 6th violation of a protective order in less than a year. She kept going to the protected party's address in violation of that order. Unfortunately, for all the previous 5 cases, she'd come to court and the cases would be dismissed. There was nothing we could do. Although she was harassing this one person, she was not what was deemed a threat to do a civil commitment on her. And so this, I'm sure this lady was in fear that this woman was just continually returning to her house. April 10th came around, I was at the court. I had been aware of these new laws because I had just gone to a seminar on this, and we appointed a forensic navigator. That case was not dismissed, and hopefully this woman is now getting the services she needs and is giving some peace to the person who had the protective order. A month later, I had someone who this was their 7th or 8th protective order, harassment restraining order, that they had picked up. All the ones were previously dismissed, and this one is still surviving now and getting them services. The other part of this new piece of law is the judges at their own discretion can now dismiss a case if they have some concerns about competency. So on low level, like trespass cases, a judge can just say, interest of justice, we're not going to spend the time and money, we're just going to dismiss the case. When it's an interest of justice dismissal, there's nothing I can do to appeal it or do, the judge just has the discretion to do that. So, forensic navigators, I think, in theory, works great. We've had quite a few cases appointed forensic navigators. However, I don't think this was fully funded because I can tell you in the last 2 weeks, we've had multiple court orders that say this person has been found not competent, and then the box is checked that says forensic navigator is not appointed. They ran out of funding. So it's a great program, but we're hoping they're going to get more funding so we can continue to provide assistance for that person as well as the community. And those are the 2 big areas of law that have changed this year. Anyone have questions?
The judge's discretion under the new law in the interest of justice, have you seen that play out since the law went into effect?
I have. I've seen it play out when it's low-level offenses. It's not the targeted misdemeanors. They're not going for those, but it's a theft or a trespass where they've already been found incompetent, and quite frankly, it's really expensive to do these competency rulings and these competency evaluations. There's a backlog of them. It's expensive to do, and so the judge says they did one a couple months ago. I'm just going to, in the interest of justice, not spend the money and just dismiss it.
Do you feel like the district court has a good sense of those things that maybe are quote-unquote victimless or there is no property damage? Those are the kind of things we're talking about. What I'm getting at is, my concern is, like I'm sure most people's is that you get a judge that for whatever reason just starts saying in the interest of justice when there are some offenses that from the city's perspective, from prosecutor's perspective, we want to prosecute. So you haven't seen that become a concern?
I have not. I haven't seen any judge dismiss a targeted misdemeanor under that at this point. I will tell you, I know there's been some previous concerns about some ordinance violations and people have been found incompetent, so there's nothing we can do criminally on that piece. If they are found incompetent, those are not targeted misdemeanors. Those cases will continue to get dismissed, and there's nothing the court or myself can do about that.
Okay. One other question that I have with regard to prior to last August, what was the split of marijuana possession between municipal prosecution or whether it went to the county attorney? Did we see a lot of those misdemeanor level possessions, or were those things usually kicked to the county?
Most personal use marijuana cases were misdemeanor level offenses, unless they had pounds of it. Did it go to the county? Almost everything was misdemeanor. And so now there is no misdemeanor level offense for marijuana. There's also, same with paraphernalia, it just doesn't exist. If you violate it, and let's say you have 3 pounds of marijuana in your own home, I believe it's a petty. I can double check that, but I believe it's a petty misdemeanor.
Wow.
Let's see. Yep, So, yeah. So that's kind of where the law is.
Understood. Okay. Council, any questions for Ms. Monens?
Actually, I do have a question. You were talking about how I'm just trying to get an idea of the number in terms of the people, how many people are really found incompetent. Is this a high number? Is this something that you're looking at, like a dozen a month or a dozen a year, or?
I don't have the stats for that. I can tell you from what I've heard is Ramsey County has spent a lot more in their budget doing competency hearings than most other counties. And when you're especially when you're at the LEC, which is our law enforcement center, there's a lot higher percentage of people who are, they're doing Rule 20s on, which is that competency hearing. When I first started back in 2011, when you'd get these Rule 20 returns, very few people were deemed incompetent. And now I would say the majority of them are. I don't know if that's because they're more picky about who they submit to these competency evaluations or if there's just more mental health concerns and issues going on.
Okay. And do you have any idea how many of these forensic navigators they were able to hire for the short period of time they had money?
Well, they're still under employment.
Okay.
I know they took 2 directly from the court system.
Okay.
I don't know. I will also tell you Ramsey and Hennepin started as the pilot project. So we were the ones given the funds initially. I don't even know if some of the other Washington, Anoka, Carver counties, I don't even know if they have the funds for this or have started it yet.
Okay.
So we started it here, and we are already out of money, or at least what they deem. They're not going to spend the money on some of our level offenses, I will say at least that.
So for the cases that came before you that already went to this forensic navigator, have you heard from them since? Or has it really, like this gal that kept showing up at her friend's house, has that stopped then? What was frequent abuse has now stopped?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know about that case specifically. When I appear at the LEC, I appear for all the suburbs,
Okay.
and that one wasn't specifically a White Bear Lake case.
Okay.
So I don't know what happened with that. We do follow these cases. We have mental health hearings, and so we do follow some of these cases. I think this is so new that it takes a long time. I will tell you, we were getting people appointed in April, and the people weren't even hired yet to be the forensic navigators.
Okay.
So they put the system in place, but it's taken a long time to start it up, and I don't know how funded it is.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Council, any other questions? Ms. Crawford, do you have something to say?
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you for your collaboration, with the police department and myself and in my office regarding cannabis and understanding the SRO, new laws last fall. It was very helpful. I appreciate all your work that you do for White Bear.
Thank you.
Thank you for the report. Appreciate it.
Yep.
All right, item 6, public hearing. We have nothing scheduled. Item 7, unfinished business. A second reading of an ordinance amending the municipal code to adopt new chapter regarding alcoholic beverages. Ms. Crawford.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. As you just stated, this is the second reading of the ordinance, an ordinance amendment for alcoholic beverages in our city code. So currently, chapters 1001 and 1002 are our ordinances regulating liquor. We have found that they are not as descriptive, and certain provisions actually do not align with state statutes, Chapter 340A liquor. So over the past year and a half or so, the city council staff and the city attorney have been discussing amending the liquor ordinance. We I think discussed this pretty significantly, so I wasn't going to go into too much detail tonight. But nothing has changed in the draft ordinance, with the exception of on page 20. I should clarify, nothing has changed from the first reading in the ordinance, with the exception of page 20. The first violation, there's a table in there with violations 1 through 4, and there was an error in there regarding the number of months. So I did get that corrected from 24 months to 18. I will just note that our violation currently reads 12 months, so pushing that to 18 is stricter. But So that's the only change from the first reading, but the city attorney and I can stand for any questions if you have any during the second reading. You do have an ordinance in your packet that we do recommend that you adopt the ordinance, and then following that, adopt the attached resolution authorizing summary publication of the ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crawford. Council, any questions from Ms. Crawford or a comment on what we'd like to do with the ordinance? Councilmember Edberg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I want to know whether I've been sleeping during council meetings. I read in the White Bear Press that we have previously authored amendments that changed our ordinance to take away the option for 2 a.m. closings. My recollection is that we considered and asked the question, should that be an option? It was never placed as a proposal in front of us that I'm aware of. We asked for community input. We held a listening session, but there was never a drafting of a proposal that I'm remembering that actually removed that authority. Am I mistaken, or what is the actual standard, or is our local coverage incorrect?
Ms. Crawford, if you'd like to take it, I'd be happy to. I think the local coverage has been incorrect because that was my recollection too. At no point had we ever had a proposal before us, a proposed ordinance that would bring liquor bars rolling back to 1 a.m. That was an early conversation. I think extra due diligence and in the interest of transparency, myself and this council wanting to have a community conversation before we had any official business before the council. And I, for one, am happy with how the process went because we met with bar owners and other stakeholders. They helped inform us, and we brought an ordinance that doesn't change the law and allows bars to stay open until 2. So just to underscore that, I think the local coverage has been incorrect. Your memory is correct. It's the same as mine, and we never had that before this council.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate that that corroboration. I appreciate so I think we have multiple pages of ordinance, rules, regs. Periodically, we need to revise them, and at those kinds of times, it's entirely appropriate for us to ask questions about what might some opportunities, alternatives, et cetera, be prior, and so that we can have research and conversation, policy discussion that informs whether, in fact, changes are made. And I really appreciated the process that we used in discussing this particular ordinance, in raising some of those questions, asking what is perfectly reasonable. Ultimately, we decided, based on input and feedback, that this was not an appropriate policy. It never appeared in our proposed ordinance, and I think our community has not been well served in this particular instance.
Council, any other comments, questions? Councilmember Walsh.
I'll move the first item of business. I think, is that the resolution?
The ordinance.
The ordinance. I'll move the ordinance approval.
Second. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The ordinance is adopted. We have an accompanying resolution that would allow for publication of the ordinance. I'd entertain a motion on that resolution. Second. Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That resolution is passed. Thank you. All right, item A8, new business, City Campus Electric Vehicle Charging Station. Ms. Talon, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. I appreciate the opportunity to be here to discuss a proposed electric vehicle charging station at City Campus, specifically in front of City Hall. And I just want to mention that we have a member of our Environmental Advisory Commission here tonight, Bonnie, in the back. And they voted unanimously at their September meeting to support this project. So City Council approved $30,000 in the 2024 budget for a charging station at City Hall. This project aligns with two of the city's strategic initiative core strategies, the complete community and supporting our business districts. In addition to support from the Environmental Advisory Commission, we received a letter of support from Main Street, which says they feel that this charging station would be a benefit to downtown White Bear Lake business community. It would attract visitors who would stay longer for periods of time to shop, dine, and visit service businesses. And they believe it would be a popular amenity and has the potential to attract new visitors to the area. We also received a letter of support from White Bear Lake Area Chamber of Commerce. So they support the installation of the EV charging station at City Hall for three key reasons: economic development, leadership and innovation, and customer convenience. So I want to show you just the quick picture that's on the screen. I took that just last month. I was at a meeting at Shoreview Community Center. So I took a picture of one of the two stations that were there. That's a ChargePoint EV station that would service up to 4 vehicles at a time with both of those stations. And they installed that in 2020 for the community and the folks that visit the community center there. Okay. So staff proposes the charging station would be for public use, available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. However, it has the capacity to reduce that amount. You can program it for different scenarios if you don't want to have it available all the time. We feel it would primarily serve those visiting the downtown businesses, attending events, and also those visiting City Hall. However, it may get use from the local residents that live in the area because there is a lot of housing surrounding the city campus. And attachment B in your packet is this map that is from the PlugShare app. And this shows the charging station locations in the general area of City Hall. And the one closest to the north is number 1 on the map, and that is North Star Elementary. That's in Hugo. That's 5 miles from City Hall. But that is only for employee and school visitor use. Then to the south on 61, 1 mile, is a DC fast charger at White Bear Superstore. And then numbers 2 through 6 are all car dealerships that have a charging station. 2 of those 5 are only available during business hours. This one. So attachment C in your packet is this aerial photo of the City Hall parking lot. Staff is proposing to locate the charging station at that green box that's shown on the map. So it would sit on a concrete pad, which is shown in the center photo. That's just an example. And it'd be behind the curb, and it would be between 2 parking stalls. So it would service the parking stall directly on either side of it, because it would be a dual port, so you could plug 2 vehicles in at the same time. And those 2 parking spots would be designated for EV parking and charging only. This photo shows what the charging station would look like that we propose. So it is a ChargePoint, which is the manufacturer of this specific charging station. They are a leading provider of networked EV charging stations. You can find them all over the area and the United States, actually. The network is connected via cellular signal, and we have a cell tower right on campus, so it would provide a nice strong signal for the networked connection. We're proposing that dual port, as I mentioned, a level 2, which is a 50 amp charging station for both ports. So that would provide up to 37 miles of range per hour. The total cost to purchase and install the charging station is $20,500, so that's $9,500 less than the budgeted $30,000. That price includes 5 years of software maintenance, and that there would be an additional $5,000 for a second year of the software maintenance renewal. It's about a little under $1,000 a year if you bundle it in 5-year increments. So it's cheaper to bundle it in 5-year increments versus purchasing it yearly. And the cost for this EV charging station would be recovered through a user fee. So staff is proposing a user fee per kilowatt hour, versus some stations have a it's free for 2 hours, and then there's a cost per hour. So we are proposing a per kilowatt hour charge. And we're also proposing to set the fee to be revenue neutral, so it can stay reasonable for users, because we want this to be used frequently. Staff will monitor this usage and recommend adjusting the fees annually. So for now, in attachment D, we have a fee calculation for this first year, and we're proposing a 17 cents per kilowatt hour fee. The photo you see in the upper right is the Mahtomedi City Hall. This was taken in 2021. This is through the PlugShare app, and they just implemented a fee as of January 1st, 2024 of 17 cents a kilowatt hour. Their other charging station at the Triangle Park is also 17 cents a kilowatt hour, so we are right on track to be competitive with Mahtomedi specifically. This fee of 17 cents per kilowatt hour includes the ChargePoint payment processing fee. So ChargePoint themselves will process the payments and keep 10% of the gross earnings, and then reimburse us 90%. The fee also includes the cost of electricity and that annual software maintenance that I was talking about of a little under $1,000 a year. And this fee calculation was based on an assumed 4 hours per day per port use. So right now we don't know how much use, so we had to make an educated guess. The fee also includes the charging station and installation costs, assuming a 10-year payback, and 4 hours per day per port use. You could assume a 5-year payback or a 1-year payback, but that drives the price per kilowatt hour up, and then that becomes less competitive and less reasonable for users. In conclusion, staff recommends adopting the attached resolution supporting the purchase and installation of this charging station at City Hall for public use. Any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Talon. I have one question out of the chute. You kind of alluded to it, and maybe I missed it, but this assumption of 4 hours per station per day is an educated guess, is what you said.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that assume 7 days a week?
Yes, it does.
So that's a total of 8 hours of a car sitting there charging 7 days a week. That's what we're assuming in order to get the 10-year ROI.
4 hours per port, so 8 hours.
Right,
a day.
8 total.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, council, any questions or comments on this? Councilmember Hughes.
I have a really stupid question. So the 17 cents is on top of what the actual energy cost is, or is it like, when I go to the gas tank, it's 50 cents for actual gas, and it's $72,000 for tax on top of it. So is that 17 cents on tax on top of another fee that I don't see, or is that really just, it's only 17 cents to plug in?
No, that's a good question. It is 17 cents. It includes all of those costs.
Okay.
And the tax on gas is a road tax.
Yeah, no,
So
I know.
this wouldn't,
Yeah.
and maybe others, I'm not an expert on that at all. So this is, there's no additional tax included in that 17 cents. and
Councilmember
I don't
Hughes,
know-
she included the energy costs as well as the cost for the equipment
In the
that
17 cents. Yeah. So in other places where it's free, like it's legit just free. You just plugged in and it costs nothing. Wow, what a steal.
Comments or Councilmember Walsh?
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sold on this for a lot of reasons. I mean, one, just I thought of as you were talking and you're going through the calculations and 17 cents based on 4 hours a day, and we were making some assumptions. What happens is we take a city, a government, and we now run a business. And so we're trying to act like a business. We're trying to figure out how much our costs are and recover our costs. Our goal is to not make a profit, so we're a little different in that. But we still have to make these decisions as if we're purchasing an asset. We're going to try to amortize that over years and pay for it. We're going to charge the right price in the market so that we get business. We're making a bunch of, it just makes me uncomfortable when we do that kind of thing. I mean, we should stick to our core function, which is plowing streets and providing public safety and, you know, keeping water delivered to homes. And when we get outside that, when we own, you know, buildings that house restaurants and we have to decide to upgrade the HVAC system and are we going to get our money back on that, I get really uncomfortable. That's not why I'm on the city council. I'm not a banker. I can't predict whether this is a good model, whether these are good decisions, whether we're going to lose money or not lose money. So that's just a little one as I heard you talking. And I think you're making good decisions. I'm not criticizing the work. I think you're making the best effort, and I agree if we're going to do this, we shouldn't try to make a profit. But that kind of gets me to the other bigger questions, like kind of the why. Why are we doing this? We don't have gas pumps out front for cars to come and fill up with gas. We don't, as a city, provide the energy needed to run vehicles. It's not really our function. It's not our core. So it's got to be something more than that. So I'm assuming, I want to assume the reason, it's not really in the resolution. The why isn't really in the resolution. It's just kind of some facts. And the why is going to be, well, we want to encourage this technology. We want to give it a nudge. We want to, otherwise, why would we ever do this, right? So we want to, I'm assuming the city interest is to encourage the technology, which gets me to, I don't know that that's a good idea. And only because I don't think this technology at the levels that people are predicting it is sustainable. And you just have to research minerals to see this. The predictions on the use of minerals for electric vehicle use at the levels that some of these mandates, including our mandate in Minnesota to have, 100% renewables by 2040, I think it is, or 2030 even. The minerals aren't there. They're physically not there. They're not ready to mine. They don't exist. The ones that are there are under the control of China, not under the control of the United States. They're not going to be ready anytime soon enough to meet these goals. So whereas a city, we're trying to kind of get in this game. We're gonna encourage the use of this because people think that electric vehicles are going to be everywhere. It's the new future. I don't think it's going to be, because when you look at the mineral use for one thing, then on the other side of that, the amount of electricity that electric vehicle use, if they could find the minerals, and we do grow electric vehicle fleets to the level that is predicted, or actually not predicted, mandated in some cases, we don't have the electricity capacity or the transmission capacity to feed them the electricity we're going to need to do this. So it's not a realistic industry at the moment. And then if you tell me, well, they're going to fix that, they're going to have new technologies, they're going to shuck and jive as they go, great, but then that piece of equipment is going to be obsolete. It's not going to be a good purchase down the road. So it gets me back to why would we do this? I just don't see it. I'm not sold. And it's not the dollar amount. I mean, I just don't see us participating at this level. Because it's not an industry. Electric vehicles are not going to survive in their current state. They're not going to come into being like people are predicting for those reasons.
Any other thoughts on this? Councilmember West.
So, I am very appreciative of all the background information that was provided here. I appreciate the community voice that we have from the Environmental Advisory Commission. I appreciate hearing from Main Street and the White Bear Chamber of Commerce. I think it's important that we consider what the benefits are and what the desires are of the community when we're making these kinds of decisions. And I did a little bit of research, and it's not like entirely up to date, but I just kind of wanted to know how many electric vehicles were around the area. And the closest that I could find, based on the Minnesota Public Utilities Commission, as of January 2023, so that's from 2022, was that in the state there was almost 35,000 electric vehicles. And I kind of looked at, okay, well, that seems like kind of a lot of vehicles, but, and I'm thinking like that's almost 2 years ago now. But in our community, how many is that? And so I literally, I was a little later tonight than usual because I was counting Excel lines. And in White Bear Lake Township, Gen Lake, and Delwood, there was 249. Maplewood, Hugo, Matamidi, Birchwood Village, there was 398. North Oaks has 174, Venice Heights, 82. So that's like a little over 900 vehicles in kind of our just general area of electric vehicles. And so I'm just thinking, like, there are 900 vehicles plus, I think 2 years later, probably more than that, who would probably want to come here. And I hear all the time from people who live outside of those general cities that want to come here. Some of them probably have electric vehicles. They probably want to go to the downtown area, and we have nothing to provide them. And regardless, I mean, they are here. So I think kind of thinking about and talking about China and I don't know whatever else, like the electric vehicles are here and we can do something about it. We already budgeted for it. I think it's important that we look for the future and not think about, well, to just look to the future. So, thanks.
Any other comments? Councilmember Edinburgh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Walsh has a perfectly appropriate personal position on the role of municipal enterprise. I'm going to suggest that his position has been lost in this state for like decades. Some communities have municipal liquor stores. They are mainstays of those communities. We have marina. It's a legitimate philosophical place, but I don't know that we actually live it very well. Whether we provide public space for private activity like hockey and enter into agreements with local organizations that use it for their skating and competing time, and including some local businesses that offer services for sale. So we have these municipally operated enterprises all over our community and all over the state. So we can have that conversation, but I'm going to suggest that this is not that much different. The reason we want to think about supporting and offering that is twofold in my mind. Number one, we have, as Councilmember West just identified, this is a growing technology, evidenced by the number of actual places and homes and owners that actually are driving and making use of the technology. It's already here. I would remind us that in 1905, when Henry Ford invented the horseless carriage, we didn't pave roads, we didn't engineer highways and freeways to accommodate the technology of that time. It all happened. Technologies evolve. The Model T came along in 1905. It took another 15 to 20 years, 1927, before we got the first Model A. It took another 40 years before we got a Mustang. Technologies grow and change, and we are in the early stages of a technological change that is all around decarbonization of our energy supplies. The use and reliance on fossil fuels, particularly in this case oil, is contributing to massive global change. And if we can't look at Helene in North Carolina, or or Milton that's bearing down on Tampa Bay, and the increased number of global events that are being shaped by too much carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. These are really, really serious things. And to pit this argument about the instability of a technology against a proposal that pays for itself, we're going to recover the costs. The key part, I'm not going to focus on the 17 cents. I'm going to focus on the expectation that we're going to recover costs and we're going to set the prices at a point that allows the city to be made whole for its investment and to provide a benefit for the members of our greater community that make use of that. And to me, that sounds just peachy keen. So I'm going to vote in favor.
Are there any other thoughts on this?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Engstrand.
Not a huge fan of it, but I'll probably vote for it. However, I do not like the placement of it. We have a busy license bureau, and I don't want to take up a parking spot, 2 parking spots for our busy people. If you want to move it, I'd put it back over here. They have an app, they'll find it. They'll be able to get it. I just don't think it should be put right out front where our customers for our license bureau are going to be and have it taken up for 8 hours, 16 hours a day.
Mayor, Councilmember Engstrand, I want to address why we chose that location. Mr. Coppy, you can add to this too if I miss anything. The transformer is right there, so it's incredibly cheap to connect to that existing transformer. As you know, with now our squads being parked inside a garage, we have a plethora of parking now available, as well as staff parking inside the gated area now. So we do have a lot more parking available. It's cheapest to run it right there because of that existing transformer. And putting it around the corner would mean that you would have it right next to the sidewalk, which would create potential plowing issues or cords being in the way of accessing that sidewalk. So we did put a great deal of thought into this, and ultimately that's the most economical area for it. But working here every day, I would see this. We joke about it all the time. There's all this stuff outside my window, right? I'm not worried about parking because our situation has improved greatly at the city campus. But Mr. Coppy, do you have anything?
Yeah, I think you covered everything there. The charger along the sidewalk also for ADA requirements. By the time we put that there, we potential have for the cords hanging there would cause potential ADA issues along the sidewalk. And obviously, like Ms. Crawford said, the distance to bring that wiring to bore underneath the parking lot and sidewalk would be much more expensive.
Okay. Yep, please. Councilmember Hughes.
Thanks. I'm not going to support it, but for different reasons than Mr. Walsh. I don't know that as a community it is up to my neighbors to fund the charging source for people who go out and get these alternative vehicles. I think it's great that they do it, but I don't know that all of my next door neighbors need to be the bank account so that one can be put right outside the store. I think it's great if the downtown group really want to encourage people from outside of our city to come here and park and shop downtown, and they can then figure out a way to do this exact thing in a commercially viable manner. But I'm not sure that the people that I'm going to be pulling taxes from really need to be the ones that pay for this. I don't know that it's a community-wide investment for all the people down my block. So that's one of them. The other is, the biggest use of these people of this is going to be people from out of town, and great. That's wonderful. You're going to bring them in, but there are other places that you saw on the map that they can charge up before they come in, and it's sort of the name of the game, really. If you have a electric car, is trying to figure out where you're going to find a place to get electricity, like it is for me when I get in my car and I need to go find a gas station. So there's that. And then finally, I just am not a huge favor of government getting involved in this kind of a deal. It creates winners and losers that don't have anything to do with commercial viability, and then becomes unsustainable. I just think, we talk about monopolies here a lot, and I think that this edges toward government involving itself in a technology that may not be there in the future as commercially viable, but because the government has invested in it, we continue to push it. So that's my opinion.
Ms. Crawford?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to clarify, because I don't think we put it in the memo and maybe not in the PowerPoint, the fund that this is funded in. The memo says it's in the 2024 budget, which is correct. It is in the municipal building fund, which is not supported by property taxes. That the municipal building fund is funded through the community reinvestment fund and in interest earnings. So I just, not that that needs to change your mind, I just want to clarify where the funding would come from. Thank you.
Do any taxes, does any taxpayer money go into any of those other types of funds? Do we have any general fund transfers into any of them?
If there is a surplus, the city council has chosen in the past to transfer money into the municipal building fund. It is not anything that's guaranteed or planned year after year.
Right. My point only being that money is fungible. If it's not necessary, then it goes towards something else. So while I get your point that this isn't coming out of this year's actual taxpayer base, it all at the end of the day is money that is coming from our taxpayers.
Okay, any other thoughts here? Because I have many, so I wanted to wait and speak last. First off, thank you to the Environmental Commission and to Ms. Talon for doing the work and giving us the research and data. I appreciate all that the Environmental Commission does. This is one of those debates that prompts the global warming debate, whether or not EVs are the savior and it's going to change everything or not. There's lots of different debate whether it's necessary. So while I appreciate my colleagues' varying points, I want to drill down on a couple things that are important to me. And I base this on being general counsel of the Minnesota Auto Dealers Association for 8 years. That's relevant because I've been dealing with this issue of EVs, the technology surrounding it, the supply chain from the manufacturers, how they make it, and how that affects the clients at the time, franchise new car dealers. So there's a couple things that I know to be true. First of all, the overwhelming demand of Minnesota residents is not for EVs, and that's borne out in the statistics. And Councilmember West, I appreciate you doing that research. That's pretty compelling. There's 900 cars around the area. As a percentage, it's almost nothing. And I believe we are still sub 1% of all vehicles on the road in Minnesota are still our EVs. The overwhelming majority are internal combustion engines. So while I don't know, my crystal ball's as good as anyone else's, maybe 5 years from now, maybe 10 years from now, it's 20%, 50% of the cars on the road. I doubt it because politics aside, the manufacturers have a hard time sourcing the raw materials for doing this, and manufacturers are going to cater to the demand, which isn't there in droves. All right, so I look at the market forces at play, and maybe 10 years from now, this is just a home run, no problem, let's do it. I don't think we're anywhere near that yet, and that's without forecasting the future of EVs. I'm just basing that on what the demand is now. Also, having spent a great deal of time grappling with this and helping car dealers as they negotiate and navigate whether or not they should make the huge investment for level 3 chargers or put level 2 chargers in, and understanding the demands, this is what I know to be true. Tesla has dominated the EV market because they put billions and billions of dollars into level 3 superchargers around the country because that's what EV customers demand. Why is that relevant? A level 2 charger, the memo states, can charge 37 miles per hour. setting aside that that's actually borderline trickle charge, that stat in and of itself is an average, and there are lots of vehicles that are going to be significantly less on a level 2. Some may be more. So the demand, the average consumer that wants to plug in at a public station wants a level 3 supercharger, which are in excess of $100,000. And you know what? Maybe someday we get there, and that's where the technology goes, and there is a huge demand. But right now, what I know to be true is the level 2 chargers are a very, very slow charge. And if you look at what the Chamber of Commerce is saying and others about how this is going to drum up business and commerce, I'm sorry, I don't buy it that someone's going to want to plug into a level 2 charger, walk across 61, and sit there and buy a cheeseburger at one of the restaurants and come back and say, hey, I've got 25 more miles of range. That's just not the EV market. That's just not how it works. If it's a supercharger, sure, it might be different because you can plug in for 20 minutes. So those are the fundamental qualms that I have with what the technology is in its current state. I think the pie in the sky notion that this is going to be just this widely used thing, and we're basing our ROI on what I think is a faulty assumption that for 8 hours every single day, cars are going to be plugged in there 7 days a week. I live just down the street, and there's nobody around the area on the weekends. If level 2 chargers aren't a destination, superchargers are a destination. And quite frankly, where we are, this isn't where people park when they're going downtown. So I'm just not buying it. I'm just not buying that we're going to get the cross traffic. I'm not buying that it's going to drum up the economic support that we think it will. So until this is actually proven to be something that is a good technology that there will be consumer demand for, and until EVs have a significantly higher portion of the market share, I don't want to spend $20,000 of taxpayer money on something that is, in my opinion, at best, sort of technology venture capitalism in hopes that it actually serves a purpose. I will say this as well, on a final note. The big gripe with EVs right now is that the infrastructure for charging these things, right on down to the plug, isn't standardized, right? And that's relevant. It's hugely relevant because every gas station has the same size pump, every car manufacturer has the same opening, and that might take 2 years, might take 10 years for that to actually be standardized. Right now, the market is trying to sort out what's the dominant charging infrastructure, what's the dominant port, how's the technology work, is it Wi-Fi based, how do we do all that? There's way too many questions for me to support spending $20,000. And I don't think the ROI is there. And we still have very real questions about whether or not this thing's even going to be good 10 years from now and what the cost of the software is going to be 5 years from now. All of those variables, to me, when this council sits here and at work sessions and grapples over $5,000, $10,000 here for the police, for fire, for all these things, rightfully so, I think we should, this is $20,000 that I just simply can't support. So I would urge the council to reject this and wait until the technology is much more developed that might justify a significant investment by the city in support of EVs. And that's where I stand. So with that, I'd either entertain a motion, or if someone has some follow-up comments, happy to bat the ball back and forth on this one. Councilmember Edberg.
I'll move approval.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Hey.
By a vote of 3-2, the motion fails. The resolution does not pass. Item 9, discussion, nothing scheduled. Item 10, communications from the city manager. Ms. Crawford.
Thank you, Mayor. Tomorrow is the Highway 96 elected official roundtable for the Highway 96 corridor. Councilmember Hughes is planning to attend. It is noticed if in case we do have a quorum, I will be there. I think Mr. Coffey will be there. I strongly encourage council members to attend this. It is in Stillwater, but it's from 4 to 5:30. So hopefully we'll see you there. A reminder, we do have a work session next Monday. It's not Tuesday, it's next Monday. This is our enterprise special revenue funds budget work session. So Monday work session at 6 p.m. Next week. And that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crawford. Council, any questions for Ms. Crawford? Okay, before we go, hi, high school students. How you doing? You probably already know I like to chat with the folks that show up. And this meeting's particularly interesting because last Saturday I celebrated my 20th class reunion just across the way, and I saw Mr. Cameron Malum. Anybody have Mr. Malum? Very good. And we chatted about his high school students that are still coming, and we chatted about how 21 years ago, I was a junior when I had his class, I sat where you were and listened to a council meeting, and we were discussing how important it is and how glad I was that he continues with that assignment. So this one ran considerably longer than I thought it would, so I apologize for those that I told it might be an hour. But it happens. So I want to thank you for being here. I hope you got something out of seeing something unique like the Honor Guard presenting the colors. We don't do that every time. That's pretty cool. It's special to be a part of that. You got to see the swearing in of some police leadership. And at the end, you got to see some honest to God, dialogue and discussion. But unlike other levels of government, we typically do that respectfully here. We show decorum, and you win some, you lose some, but we always show respect, and I'm particularly proud of that. And that predates me. I'm happy to continue it. So, as I've said to many other high school students, local government touches your everyday lives. It's who shows up when you call 911. It's the water that comes out of the faucet. It's where things go when you flush the toilet. It's the roads that you drive on. It's very, very, very important. So I hope that as you grow up, maybe one day you decide to participate in local government, whether it's on a committee or running for office someday, or just simply voting in an election. Or you could be a city manager, sure. My title's way cooler, but you could be a city manager if you wanted. There are all kinds of possibilities, but in some way, shape, or form, I encourage you to participate in local government because it's very, very important. So thank you again for being here. We'll sign your papers in 1 second after I do this. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We're adjourned.